The Trump administration today, in a 2-hour-plus long cabinet meeting, defended military strikes of questionable legality against alleged drug boats in the Caribbean, even amid growing bipartisan concerns on Capitol Hill that follow-up strike, killing survivors on September 2nd, may have constituted a war crime, one that the Secretary of Defense seems suddenly eager to note that he did not specifically order.
We've only just begun striking narco boats and putting narco terrorists at the bottom of the ocean. We always have the back of our commanders who are making decisions in difficult situations.
Okay, so that last part is Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth referring to Admiral Frank Mitch Bradley, who at the time of that second strike was commander of Joint Special Operations. The White House also says that Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct those strikes and kill everyone on board. Here was Hegseth himself on Fox, however, just one day after that strike.
I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented.
Today, Hegseth was asked if he knew that there were survivors while he watched it live.
The first couple of strikes, as you would, as any leader would want, you want to own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call. I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do.
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike? You personally?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire.
Republican Senator Roger Wicker, the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, demanded that Hegseth release recordings of these strikes, which could immediately show how everything went down. Let us not, of course, forget the initial response to this story. In his statement Friday, Hegseth slammed the, quote, fabricated, inflammatory, and derogatory reporting about this incident, while the Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell said, quote, the entire narrative was false. Now, of course, they are admitting to the strike and the follow-up strike and seemingly putting it all on Admiral Bradley. All of this sure to ignite even more questions as the U.S. is considering taking further military action, not just against boats in the Caribbean, but against Venezuela itself. I want to bring in CNN anchor and chief White House correspondent Caitlin Collins. So the administration's position right now appears to be the buck does not stop with the Secretary of Defense when it comes to the order of the second strike.
Yeah, I mean, those comments really stood out today because it was probably the most we've learned about what actually was happening behind the scenes as this strike was going down and what exactly Secretary Hegseth saw. Because remember, President Trump on Air Force One on Sunday was saying he didn't know about a second strike. He said, I wouldn't have wanted a second strike. And then when he was asked about that again today, he repeated that he didn't know. He said that he was relying on what Hegseth was telling him. And then Hegseth saying, I was in the room for part of it. I wasn't in the room for all of it, when that is the critical second strike. And now the timeline of what elapsed in between the first and the second one, how much time, is a big question. And when the reporter tried to clarify, Hegseth did not say how much time had elapsed between those two. But him going out of his way to say that he wasn't in the room while also defending Admiral Bradley, I think really stands out, given I think the White House realizes there are real questions about this on Capitol Hill and how this went down, not just from Democrats, but from Republicans, too.
I have some questions myself. I'm sure you do as well, Caitlin.
Yeah, well, and I think in terms of how the decision was made when it came to the second strike and whether they knew there were survivors, he is saying he did not know. And so he is obviously while defending Admiral Bradley, he is also putting the onus on him in terms of the fact that there were survivors clinging to the wreckage of that boat before they conducted the second strike here. I'm not sure if that's going to be sufficient for these Republicans like Wicker, who have been asking for more information. But I think the fact that he went into that level of detail does show you basically that they are registering the level of concern and scrutiny that it may be coming from Capitol Hill on this.
Yeah, Caitlin Collins, thanks so much. Independent Senator Angus King, who caucuses with Democrats, said 2 days ago that if the second strike was intended to kill survivors, it would be, quote, a stone-cold war crime. Caitlin's going to ask him what he thinks now, given the new developments. Senator Angus King guest tonight on The Source with Caitlin Collins. That's tonight at 9 Eastern, only here on CNN, although you can also watch it on the new CNN app. Let's all this with Democratic Senator Tim Kaine. of the great Commonwealth of Virginia, who serves on the Senate Armed Services Committee. So, Senator, what do you make of Secretary Hegseth saying today that he not only did not order the second strike, a follow-on strike, that he did not even see a second strike or see any survivors?
Well, Jake, look, I think all of these operations are illegal because there's been no congressional vote to authorize war in the Caribbean, the Pacific, or against Venezuela. So let's start there. But let's drill down on the second strike. The Defense Department's own law of war manual specifically says that it would be illegal to shoot survivors of a shipwreck. And we have prosecuted people from the Nuremberg trial forward if they attack wounded combatants on the field. You do not have a license to wantonly slaughter wounded combatants. And as far as I read Secretary Hegseth, he's not denying that he gave the kill everybody order. That would be a war crime if he did. He's now trying to push responsibility off on his Special Forces commander, Admiral Bradley. But I think that most people read his statements, saying that the whole thing was fabricated last week to now acknowledging it's true and pushing it off on a subordinate. Real leaders don't push off responsibility onto their subordinates.
You said you plan to file a resolution demanding no military action against Venezuela, war-like military action against Venezuela without congressional approval. You think it will pass. Can you explain who you think, what Republicans will vote with Democrats on it, and what exactly the resolution would do?
Jake, I think you'll see in the next few days the filing of two different resolutions. One, no war in Venezuela without congressional approval, and the second, dealing with no more strikes in international waters without the approval of Congress. We have tried these resolutions before. They're privileged, meaning we will be guaranteed a vote within 10 calendar days. It can't be hidden in a committee. It can't be filibustered. Simple majority vote, up or down. We were not able to get more than 2 Republican votes in the earlier iteration. We need at least 4, but the facts have dramatically escalated, including a lot of reporting about deep concerns within the Pentagon and deep concerns among our allies like the UK about the legality of these strikes. And the latest news about the return to kill these 2 folks clinging to a life raft, straight up, if that is true, that is a war crime.
President Trump ended today's cabinet meeting by escalating his inflammatory rhetoric against Somalis in Minnesota, including Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Take a listen.
Somalians ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too.
What's your response to that, Senator?
What a sick and diseased guy. They contribute nothing. I have friends and family in Minnesota who talk about the Somali community with a lot of pride and affection. If there's bad apples in that community or any community, they ought to suffer legal consequences justified by their actions. But to use a broad brush to paint Somalis as negative. Jake, you know Virginia pretty well. We were 1 out of 100 foreign-born. When I was born in 1958, we're 1 out of 9 foreign-born now, and we've gone from bottom quarter per capita income to top quarter per capita income because our immigrant communities in Virginia and in this country have been a source of great richness and innovation. It's like the transfusion in the nation's bloodstream at 250 that's kept us young. So don't use the broad brush to go after all Somalis and say they contribute nothing. That kind of a statement it's just a symbol of a sad and diseased mind.
Today, President Trump was asked about the high cost of living during that cabinet meeting. He said he inherited the worst inflation in history and, quote, the word affordability is a Democrat scam, unquote. What's your response to that?
I think every Democrat running for office in the United States in 2026 should run that quote. Affordability is a scam. Affordability is a hoax. Affordability is a Democratic issue. If you're a hardworking everyday person and you've watched food prices go up energy prices go up, healthcare go up, building supplies go up, toys go up, electronic components go up, and you have a president like Marie Antoinette saying everything's fine. They should run that ad, that presidential quote, in every campaign ad in 2026.
Democratic Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, thanks so much, sir. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.